So the question many would ask is, does the government listen to its people?
The government does listen to its people. The government has listened before. And in this conversation, Yvonne, for me, the primary mover is the people of Kenya, because they're the ones who voted for us and put us in office. We are willing to listen, and we will listen to people. We will listen to their representatives in parliament. This is a parliamentary process. We are listening to stakeholders. We are listening to industry. We are listening to private sector. So that we are willing to do. What I have a problem with is the position of the LSK. By the way, it is a legitimate right of any government in Kenya or anywhere in the world to raise taxes. Because it is only by raising taxes. There is no other source of money for government, to run government, except taxes. When we borrow for one reason. Why do we borrow? Because we can't raise enough taxes. Yeah? So the primary source, the only legitimate, bona fide primary source for running a government is by raising taxes. So you cannot take me to court for raising taxes. That's number one. You can only say this tax. For example, let me give you an example. Young Omtata went to court about the housing levy. Did he say it is not the right of government to not raise the levy? No. He said there are some things that were not done in the process of raising the levy that were not constitutional. Go and fix them. But the actual injunction about raising taxes is people of Kenya voting in a general election who said, the Republicans, for example, in the US, the Democrats, they are the ones in power now. They are going to have arguments with their Congress and all that. But they say, finally, if you don't do the right thing, it is the voters of Kenya who will, deal with you at the right time.
Says Kuria, I don't think anyone is, disputing the fact
they are. Because if you listen to the arguments of the LSK, if you listen to the arguments of the LSK is, why are you raising these taxes or that taxes? The issue is, for us, we are a democratic country, put in power by voters.
Good.
We are sensitive to what the voters want.
CS Kuria, some of those taxpayers, including manufacturers, say that the taxes that we imposed, in fact, if you take a look at the impact of the Finance Act 2023, make us uncompetitive in the region, have turned the country into... these are tax...
And that's a good argument. It's a good argument.
Allow me to finish. Yeah. And these are taxpayers, and manufacturers are probably the biggest taxpayers in the country. They say that, at least if you take a look at the Finance Act of 2023, it made Kenya uncompetitive in the region. It cost jobs. Factories closed. Kenya then became a net importer rather than exporter in some very key sectors. So the issue is not about raising taxes, raising revenues through taxes, but it's about which ones you do and the priorities.
Great.
And so the question some ask is, you are loading on after the impact of the Finance Act 2023, which resulted in factories closing, moving shop, jobs losses. On top of that now, you're proposing to pile on some more taxes. So what is the rationale? And is this an argument that...
That's very good, Yvonne. Have we rested the issue of legality? Because I really want us to rest the issue of legality. Because it's an issue that I'm going to hammer again and again, that the role of government is to raise taxes, So the issue of legal or illegal, let's park that one. I think it is very clear that, finally, if people of this country are not happy with me for raising taxes, I have got a destiny with them at the ballot. But anyway, I digress. We raise that. I really want to address that LSK issue and say that raising taxes that you don't like does not make it illegal.
I think you've addressed that. Can we now move on to the next substantive? Because my substantive question, now, CS, was not about the legality of raising issues. It was about whether you listen to Kenyans when they say, this is what we don't want, this will not work, this will have a negative impact. You go ahead and do it anyway. And then it has an impact. For instance, the manufacturers. Let's address that.
Okay, good. Excellent. Now, how do we listen to? We listen to all the arguments. We listen to all... it's a very comprehensive process coming from us in government, within the executive, before even we move to parliament. And then even within parliament, our majority, we control the committees in Parliament. Honorable Kimani Kuria, Honorable Didi Nyoro, and all the other teams, they now get in the process of public participation. Now, out of every 10 people who tell you, I don't like this and that, We don't implement all. It's a fact. Do you implement zero? No. We implement some. Even last year, I wanted some things done. Committee came and told me, no, this one we can't do it like this because Kenyans are telling us 1, 2, 3. So we do listen, but do we listen to all? Let me give you an example, Yvonne. You remember this time last year, I was the Minister for Trade and Industry. And I introduced a particular levy called Export and Investment Promotion Levy for discouraging imports. The same imports you're saying we are becoming an importing nation. I did put, it was very unpopular. I put in I wanted 25%, I put in 17% for imported clinker. I put in 17% for billets and the staff for making steel and all that kind of thing. I put in 17% for paper to stop the imported thing. I was beaten left, right, and center. You know, this year there were arguments that we should take it from 17% to 2%. And it was there. You know, I remember it came before us in cabinet and I said, no, this is a reversal of policy. So there seemed to be have been some consensus within the executive to say, let's come from 17% to 2% because the industry is complaining, but let's not come to 2%, but come to 10%. Today I was delighted when my sister, my successor, CS Rebecca Miano, they had a meeting with the president, and manufacturers, today is a happy day for me. Manufacturers say, actually, we don't want that 10%. Let us remain at 17%. Why? Our industry has expanded. We are employing more people. We are paying more taxes. So some of these things, you know, people oppose things. People oppose things in the short term because of, you know, some deficit in understanding. And you know, a government, a responsible government must make some decisions, not based on today and tomorrow, but based on posterity and the long term.
CS, those very manufacturers have talked about, for instance, the impact of increased import duty on raw materials to produce tea sacks. They talk about one of the oldest companies in East Africa that closed its doors in March 2024, leading to loss of 60 jobs. Another paper bag and sack manufacturer which had secured a market for craft paper lost the contract in September 2023 due to non-competitive prices.
Fantastic.
These are...
What a great example.
Hang on. These are the same ones that are saying that the Finance Act 2023 resulted in losses and companies closing. So my question is, there are some that have worked, but why then is this same manufacturing sector complaining about things like import duty for these craft paper?
Yeah.
Kenya is at import duty of 35%. Uganda is at 0%. Tanzania is at 25%. We are by far the highest in import duty, import declaration fee, railway levy fee. So all of these fees. My question to you with respect to this is, if manufacturers are saying these are some of the issues we had with 2023, and you're loading on even more in 2024, is that a sign of a listening government? Here's another one with the housing levy. Originally, it was at 3%, reduced to 1.5%. And then it was on gross salary. It was meant to be capped. We all know what happened. You know, it ended up being capped. We all know what happened with the housing levy in this country. So then the question is, all of these things that have happened in 2023, how can we then move into more proposals in 2024 when those very big taxpayers are saying, 2023 was a bad year, 2024 will be worse?
Okay, let's put it this way. The same manufacturers last year were throwing stones at me because of the import levies. Today they are celebrating. Let's look at the issue of paper.
They're not.
Let's look at the issue of paper. They are celebrating, you know. And tomorrow, by the way,
from their proposals before the finance committee, they're not celebrating.
Tomorrow we have a meeting with the private sector. The president will be chairing a meeting with the private sector. You know, most of us in cabinet will be attending where these issues, they have really zeroed in. After the private sector have gone through their discourse about all the issues, they have zeroed in on 3 to 4 issues which we'll be addressing tomorrow afternoon, ahead of the budget speech on that day. But anyway, let's look at this issue of paper. The same way I'm telling you that people are complaining about clinical, now you have got a 30 billion factory that was opened in West Pokot, that is bridging that's employing the 3,000 to 5,000 people in West Pokot, people who would be out of jobs If I took the short-term, shortcut, expedient way, now we have got jobs within 1 year.
Okay,
1 year is not over.
Kuria, my question
now there's another factory opening up in Kajelo.
You're saying manufacturers are happy.
Yeah.
They make a presentation to the finance committee and say they are not happy.
There are two kinds of manufacturers. There are two kinds of manufacturers.
In your view, CS Kuria, are the manufacturers lying?
Some of the manufacturers are not manufacturers. You know what they are? They are importers. And I've said it here. I said it in this, media house last year. Some of them are importers. They are used to the good old ways of importing and importing. When we import, we don't create jobs. When we import, we don't create taxes here. My first primary person to me is that jobless guy there who wants a job. I will do it. I love manufacturers very much, but sorry, my first primary customer is that guy who I want to get a job, like the 3,000, 5,000 people who have got jobs in West Pokot. Let's address the issue of paper. What is paper? Is it robots? Is it drones? Is it aircraft? If we can't manufacture paper here, when are we going to manufacture aircraft? When are we going to manufacture motor vehicles? The same manufacturer, I would ask them, listen, you don't want us to manufacture craft paper here. Then what chances on earth do I have of ever manufacturing motor vehicles? We cannot keep doing these things the same way.
Okay.
And call ourselves responsible government. We have to do one thing. My theory of taxation is taxation must afflict the comfortable, and it must comfort the afflicted. What we've done through this finance bill, we have afflicted the comfortable, the importers, but have comforted the afflicted, who is a job seeker.
All right. I guess they will disagree with you on that one. But I want us to talk about, the revenue-raising measures, right, in the finance bill. So, we're currently, finishing up with the Finance Act 2023. And let's talk about targets, because you're saying we're doing the same thing, over and over, but not seeing results. So seeing that the revenue targets for an additional 211 billion for 2023, this current year, have not been met, what gives you the confidence that the 302 billion shillings that we intend to collect this year will be met? All indications, including KRA themselves, saying they will not raise those amounts of money. So where is the issue, and why would you be optimistic of that this year?
There now we are on the same page with you. We are on the same page because we need to do much more work in terms of ensuring that there's compliance to revenue raising. I believe that KRA has got a lot of work to do. We are assisting them in the spirit of the one whole of government approach. I believe one thing, Yvonne, and I want to speak not to you, but I want to speak to Kenyans. Because we are going to take some very painful measures to bring everybody into the tax bracket and to make everybody a taxpayer. Once we do that, and it's going to be painful, once we do that, my hope and my faith is that within the next 2 years, 3 years, we'll be able to bring down taxation. I want to live within this term of the first term of President William Ruto.
But the president has talked about a different figure. So are you at odds with President
William
Ruto?
I'm just saying.
Because he's talking about raising, our taxes to what, 22.5?
Yes, there are 2 years of raising that taxation to be at par with, the rest of the world in terms of taxes to revenue, because those are global issues. What I'm saying is this burden of raising from wherever we are to where we want to be is now in the hands of very few people. It's in the hands of me and you. Still, there is a lot of people in this country who are not paying taxes. There are a lot of people who are outside the tax bracket. And really, our effort and our concentration and our focus should be able to bring more people into the tax bracket. I do not see a reason why. I remember in the last 18 months, we did some reforms on some areas, for example, betting taxes, where we went straight to the source, and we now have something called kukata kwa mita, so that we just deduct the taxes at source. I am going to do it now from other taxes, for example, from our pay from the public sector. I didn't want to see a situation where we keep focused on everybody paying taxes at source, and we are moving to there. That means that once we bring everybody to this kukata kwa mita thing, millions of Kenyans will also be paying taxes. What is the sum effect of that? I see VAT If we do that and get more Kenyans on the tax-paying bracket, I don't see why VAT should not drop from 16%, for example, to 12%. I don't see why the top bracket for the income tax should not come from 30% to 20% or lower. The problem now is that we have got very few people who are carrying this burden. Let me give you an example.
And what measures can you say at least Finance Act of 2023 has done that gives us, and what is in there in the Finance Bill of 2024? Because ultimately the same taxpayers still feel like they're being raided.
Yeah, true for that now. When you look at all these telecom-based taxes, the mobile and all that, is because they touch the widest number of people as much as possible. And that is the way to expect as we move forward. Taxes which you can be able to verify, taxes which you can be able to point. I know it is not enough, and we are going to push to ensure that. Let me give you an example, Yvonne, that will shock you. You know these teams, the one for paying the VAT, the machine, the gadgets, which we are now calling eTeam because it has gone digital. By the time we met, just slightly over a year ago, we had somewhere in the region of 50,000 people who are going to be on these gadgets called teams for paying taxes directly. Compare that with how many businesses are operating pay bills. Lipa na M-Pesa, I don't know, Pochi la Biashara, I don't know, these millions. So somebody is registered for Pochi la Biashara. So they're doing some legitimate business. Somebody has got a business-driven pay bill. 4 million of them, yeah? If you look at M-Pesa and all that, people with those all over. But on the other hand, the registration for the purposes of paying VAT is only less than 100,000 shillings.
So let me ask
what does that mean?
Let me ask you.
Can I ask you a question? Wouldn't you want everybody to pay taxes? Do you have a problem with that?
In line with what you're saying, Cabinet Secretary, which is that the taxes should, afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. Many would say that increasing the cost of mobile money transactions, in fact, does hurt the hustlers, which is the premise of the Kenya Kwanza administration. Those are the ones who are moving money, and that perhaps takes away the whole principle of financial inclusion.
No, that hustler needs roads. That hustler needs power. That hustler needs water. You eat what you kill, okay? We have got no other place for raising money other than from people. The issue is not about paying taxes. The issue is how am I converting the taxes I collect? Because I will be lying to those people and I tell them, look, we have a
So
money.
Speak to the hustlers who were promised perhaps an easier...
I never promised hustlers they will not pay taxes.
Okay.
Please produce a video so that we can go on break.
All right, so tell them.
We didn't promise you that you will not pay taxes. I'm telling you.
They will pay taxes?
Hii mzigo ni yetu, tutapepa pamoja, tumeanza pamoja, hakuna mtu atapiga kona, tutaisha pamoja.
I have one last question for you before we move to our stories. Again, one on comforting the afflicted. So all of these taxes that you say are being raised from, the ones that earn the most to sort of give it to the ones, that need it. However, the budget allocations state different. For instance, the overall funding for education, which is, a key driver of human capital that the president lauds in this country, has a 7% reduction. In fact, there is a decrease in the total cut for both primary and secondary education by 12 billion shillings. Social infrastructure will suffer. There's a decrease in funding for university education by 22%. In fact, here's one question where you are talking about comforting the afflicted. Many would wonder the rationale then in the allocations for this, because you say you're taxing the rich, right? Which is supposed to help the most vulnerable. Yet in the allocations, we are seeing social protections in the country receiving a major reduction in that. Let's see, for example, a 3.23 billion shillings reduction in the State Department for Social Protection. This is actually 3.05 billion that will come from the particular kitty that is supposed to go to older persons' cash transfers. 40% cut to the Women's Enterprise Fund. All of these are key pillars of the bottom-up economic agenda.
I like your question.
So my question is this: if you say you're raising taxes from the rich to help those who need it. Yet we are seeing reductions for roads, higher education, petroleum, basic education, agriculture, medical services, amongst others. No, what is the rationale here then?
I like your question. We have got two problems in this country. We have got a problem of revenue. We have to continue raising revenue. We have to continue transforming our tax policy. And we have to continue ensuring that we have resources sufficient to run this country. We have another bigger problem, Yvonne. We have a bigger problem of not living within our means. We have a bigger problem of recurrent expenditure. We have a bigger problem of people allocating money, not for going to the Mwananchi, but for buying mandazi and travel and flowers for us.
So CS, why not address that issue?
No, we are.
And then give the money, address what you're talking about, which is the wastage, and then give that to education, health, including disaster response. I'm trying to help assist you. Which has been reduced.
Just give me a chance because you'll benefit greatly. Social protection. 1.2 million people were on social protection by the time we took over this government. We are now on 1.9 million people beneficiaries. These 1.9 million people will continue receiving their 2,000 shillings. Our elderly people, our vulnerable, our people with severe disabilities, our orphans, they will continue getting the same money they were receiving last year, despite the reduction.
How's that? Explain it to us, because...
you have seen as a reduction, Yvonne. That's why I want to help you.
No, it's a simple mathematical...
I want to assist you. It is not the money going to the people. Please.
Yes, hang on 1 second. Let me
I'm not answering your question. I'm not answering your question.
So let me ask it this way. If you reduce the amount of money that is going, say, to older persons,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
And help me understand this.
Yeah.
Either the amount of money, and we have no evidence that the number of people who require this has in fact reduced from last year.
Yes, it has not. It is increasing.
It has in fact increased.
Yeah.
So when you reduce the amount of money that is set to go to older persons, and yet the number of persons needing it has increased, one of two things would happen. Is that you would reduce the number of people who are benefiting, or you would reduce the amount of money that goes to these people who are more than last year.
Okay.
Explain this math to me.
What you are seeing as a reduction is a reduction to the budget of the State Department of Social Protection. It is not a reduction in the benefits to the people. What is the reduction is that we are going to have less seminars, less, capacity buildings, less mandazis, less flowers, less all those things that are happening there, less per diems. We call it fiscal consolidation. So that money, instead of going to us, civil servants, to do all sorts of shenanigans, is going to go direct to the people. And that is a journey the president is leading, to say, let us reduce the recurrent expenditure, as you correctly put it, so that we do not affect the Mwananchi there, we will affect the rest of us in offices. And that's why I am much more convinced.
How much do you estimate has been used to buy mandazis? And 300
billion. You know why? More than 300 billion. We have cut.
So, for instance, in this one, which is the social safety net program, so you've decreased this by 3 billion.
Imagine.
It's actually, hang on 1 second, it's a 94% decrease.
No. It's not 3 billion. I'm just telling you, every elderly person.
No, we're talking about that.
Every elderly person
right,
will receive exactly the same amount of money they were receiving.
Okay. So my question is this.
So if you see any reduction...
Let's talk about this. The decrease in that one is 3.05 billion shillings. It's a 94% decrease. Here's the question.
From what to what?
What you're saying, therefore, is that this 3.5 billion shillings that you have reduced was being used... was being misused. I'm just following your argument.
Yeah, true.
I'm just following your argument. Okay, because your argument is that the money was being misused.
Let's go to what we call...
So here's the thing, CS. If you're saying 3 billion shillings is being reduced from the National Social Safety Net Program.
Let's go to indisputable facts.
And what you're saying is that this money, these are your facts, not mine, CS, where you say this money was being used inappropriately. So you want to tell us now that 3 billion shillings, instead of going to the older people, was being used for mandazis, for seminars.
Let's go to two indisputable facts. One, every elderly person, we have provided for money in this budget, every elderly person, every orphan, and every person with severe disability who is registered on our social protection program will receive exactly the same amount of money they were receiving before. That is indisputable. That is not contested. Two, we have an exercise. When we started doing this budget, we were somewhere in the region of 4.1 trillion. The president gave a direction that we have to cut 300 billion from our own largesse from our own exigencies, from our own O&M and things we were doing before, you should be congratulating us. We need to even, I am not even, as a CS in charge of performance and delivery, I'm not even done yet. And as soon as this budget is passing, I'm going to have a conversation with all ministries, departments, and agencies, because we need to live within our means.
Okay.
And by the way, once you should be very happy that we're saying, let's affect us who are in offices, let's cut all this unnecessary expenditure so that money can go directly to the people.
Okay.
That's what we want.
Sorry, I just need to talk about this one here, because your argument that this money is being lost or being used inappropriately, and you're saying you want to send the money where it is. So Treasury has a 6 billion shillings increase. Defence has an 11 billion shillings increase. Foreign Affairs has perhaps round about 1.3 billion shillings increase. And all of these others have a decrease of billions of shillings. Is it your position, CS, based on your argument, that 48 billion shillings that is reduced from Department of Roads was being misused? Based on your argument? 34 billion shillings that is being reduced from the Higher Education Research Department was being misused. Were all these monies then being misused?
No.
Because I'm just following your argument where you're saying the reduction in some of these key areas is to...
You are overgeneralizing and oversimplifying.
Well,
some of these areas, for example, for the roads, we have got, I would wish, if you ask me, that all of us sacrifice part of our budget to go and pad roads, because we have a huge deficit. We have got a lot of pending bills that we have inherited. We have got pending bills. The current pending bills for roads is in the region of 300 billion shillings. The money that, certificates from contractors that are there. To complete the current stock of roads, we need another 900 billion shillings. If you saw from your own bulletin, when government had to make presentations on the finance bill, why we had to raise more taxes, why we had to do the taxes this way, we didn't send any other minister. We sent Onesimus Kipchumba.
So if there's all that wastage, why are you adding taxes? Why not just, get the money from
we
all
are
of
doing
these?
both of them. We are doing both of them. We are chewing gum and scaling the stairs at the same time. We are basically working like bees 24 hours, raising taxes when we need to raise taxes, cutting expenditure. Can you imagine if you're just raising taxes and we're not cutting expenditure? Can you imagine if you're doing that and you're not modernizing KRA and the things we're doing? So all these are going to meet somewhere, and I'm sure not even within the long term, within the medium term, Kenyans will start smiling, and ultimately we can start paying less taxes, all of us together.
All right.
That's to have a fair conversation. Because the issue is not increase from X to Y. The issue is, if I offer this service, for example, manually, and I offer it digitally, what is the comparison? I think we need to broaden that discussion. Okay.
I want us to move now to other conversations that are of national importance and that have been, the topic of discussion in the country lately. Earlier on when we started this program, we talked about the differences, or the rift, if you like, between the retired president, Uhuru Kenyatta, and, the current president, Dr. William Ruto. So you say there is no bad blood?
There is.
But we saw that even before, the election, the campaign season. And there was quite a bit of...
Everybody had their democratic right. That has not been this bad blood. Because, we are extremely busy people with so many challenges, including the questions you are asking here, which luckily my good friend Uhuru Kenyatta had his time to answer those questions. So for us, it is really a mismatch of expectations, because for us, we have a country to run. For us, we have got challenges. We have challenges of food. We have challenges of healthcare. We have challenges of education. So it really would be, where would we even get time to fight with Uhuru Kenyatta? Where?
CS, from what we saw yesterday, and now a committee has been put together of which you are a part, would you say that sets a bad precedent in terms of undermining the spirit of the Constitution, where it would seem two important holders of one office now have to address each other in the media, and forming a committee that you said at the start of this program does not necessarily follow the law of the Retired President's Beneficiaries Act, but is rather an act of bending backwards to give retired President Uhuru Kenyatta what he's asking for?
I think this issue is really a storm in a teacup. It's really a much ado about nothing, really, because we have got a country run by laws. We have got a country run by a constitution, and we also have avenues for resolving whatever grievances somebody would feel, rightly or wrongly, that they have not been done. I believe that the retired president, should have done it better. But nonetheless, what are we saying? We are saying that given the challenges of finance bill, challenges of budget, challenges of we just coming from flooding, challenges of that we are in a planting season, challenges that we have got JSS, challenges, where would you find space for one individual in a country of 53 million people? So the less said about that, the better.
Okay. Yet, just about 2 years into this administration, we're seeing again issues, those that you say should not be paid attention to, then cropping up again. Now we've got a seeming spat between President William Ruto and his deputy, Rigathi Gachagua. It would seem that history is repeating itself. What, in your view, is the state of the relationship between the president and his deputy?
Unlike William Ruto, who didn't have the only duty for William Ruto that was defined and implemented was principal assistant to the president when he was the deputy president. The current deputy president is a very fortunate man. He chairs cabinet committees. And let me say, Rigathi Gachagua has done incredibly well in management of the cabinet committees. Remember, I am in charge of performance. I look at how we are performing overall in different areas. One of the areas that are performing very well is our cabinet process. When we go to cabinet, we expedite and execute business much faster and in a more expedient way because we do sort of brainstorming in the cabinet committees chaired by the deputy president, which William Ruto did not have as a deputy president. So he's very fortunate. The deputy president is in charge of development partners. Remember, look at our space, look at our fiscal space. Look at the issues we are discussing here, even here. You need to get 1 billion shillings, my friend, in a budget of 4 trillion. It is a song. You can't get. So the space of our development partners is very, very important, that they have to come in when we have disasters and all that. All that is chaired by one fortunate guy called Rigathi Gachagua, the deputy president. The deputy president has been assigned duties to do with coffee, to do with tea. He's leading our efforts in battles against alcoholism. So he is in charge of state honors, giving people some, for example, all members of cabinet are now having EGH orders as it should be, except myself. I'm not complaining about that, but that is chaired by the deputy president. He's such a privileged man who, even given the history of where we have come, remember, he is the second deputy president of the 2010 Constitution. Yes. He's the second one. Yeah. We've only had one experiment. So he is the second one. And what we need to do, just like we do in jurisprudence, is that, we also create our culture or our through precedents, Now we have the Ruto president, now we have got the Rigathi Gachagua president, to be the second deputy president, because the others were vice president. It's such an honor and such a great calling. Remember, and I campaigned along with Rigathi Gachagua. We came a long way in the then so-called Taga movement. There were so many of us who are qualified, men and women, like Anne Waiguru, like Alice Wahome, like Dendi Nyoro, like J.B. Muturi, like Kindiki Kidure, who could have qualified by that position, for that position. So again, the president, you remember, most of the people were not favoring Rigathi Gachagua, especially the whatever. It's the president who said, no, I want this guy. So let me put it this way. I think from where I sit, there's nothing, I don't have empirical evidence of any problem between the president and the deputy president. I don't have empirical evidence.
Okay.
Two, if there would be any, the burden of resolution would be on that very fortunate man called the deputy president, the man who ought to bend backwards, the man who ought to say that the other guy did have the privilege of having defined duties like the Nairobi River Commission, like having independent offices, like having this and that. The man who was picked almost through a lottery.
But yet,
he was picked through a lottery.
But yet, CS, with all of this, he then says, and he's on record as saying that there are people around the president who are seeking to drive a wedge between the two of them. He has said he sees darkness ahead. I mean, you've seen this. In fact, you were in Nakuru this, a couple of days ago, speaking on the issue of unity. So why would a man that you say is particularly fortunate in this, then just less than 2 years into this new administration, be saying that there are people wedging
when you accuse
a rift?
When you accuse people of wedging a rift, it means they are wedging a rift to influence the president. That is indicting the judgment value or capabilities of the president. Because for you to want to influence somebody, you cannot influence somebody who is not influenceable. You cannot influence somebody who has got no power to make rational, right decisions. True, you can accuse me of attempting to influence the cameraman there to turn the camera this way or that way. But then that way, you're also indicting the cameraman, because you're saying the cameraman has got no power of choosing or the power of rationale. So this issue of, let me just broaden this discussion. The president has got a very big team, a large team. I refer you, Yvonne, and I want you to, after this show, you go and Google, and maybe put it for your viewers. My speech on the 20th of May, 2022, at the residence of the Deputy President William Ruto in Karen. That is the day on the 15th of May. Sorry, just to be precise, on the 15th of May 2022 is the day on a Sunday that we named Rigathi Gachagua as a running mate. And this is what I said, and I want you to go and replay that speech. I said that the Deputy President is a fortunate, unfortunate man. Those were my words on the 15th of May 2022. And I said he's a fortunate, unfortunate man who has to choose between a very wide team of very gifted, talented, and competent people, but unfortunately he has to come up with one person. I still stick to my words. The president had such a wide team, as I said, more than 2 years ago, that he had within that wide array of people to choose from. It was even, it was a challenge of Bohemian proportion.
Was
that he had to choose one.
The right man?
Was William Ruto the right person to make that decision? Yes. Was there any empirical formula? I'm sure the president had his whatever. Were the other people less qualified? No. As I'm saying, people can have different views. Some people think he was a deserving person. Others think he got the position through lottery. And, the jury is still out.
So how do you think he should manage this issue? Because you're saying he's fortunate, he's been given much more than was there, during the first term of what we're calling this experiment, which was the first presidency under the Constitution 2010. He's obviously unhappy about something. How do you think he should manage it in the context in which we're in? Because it is, taking part, on national stages and, is becoming part of our national discourse.
The unfortunate thing in this conversation, the very unfortunate thing is that we should be talking about ourselves and individuals. All of us are aggrieved in different ways. I am not very happy with the way I get treated all the time. As I've told you, I'm still holding the medal that I was given by Kibaki in 2009. Yeah, and I'm very proud of it.
Are you unhappy that
No, I'm not unhappy.
No, I'm just...
Assuming I'm unhappy.
Okay,
Yvonne,
yes. So let's assume you're unhappy. So first...
What has that got to do with the country of Kenya?
Okay, so my first...
How can I drag my personal unhappiness and tribulation to the mission of a team that we work together to prove a point that we can lead this country better, that we can be able to drive this country forward? What has got my personal frustration got to do with that? What has got my personal feeling got to do with that? If I have an argument with my wife in the morning, why would I come and make it part of the nation? More important, why would I make it part of a team that we say we've got a point to prove and we want to show that we can be able to transform this country and move it forward? Moving this country forward is much more superior and much more important than how I feel as a person as Moses Kuria.
So you disagree with the Deputy President?
I think he should be managing it better. He's my very close, very personal friend, and I plan, when in the fullness of time, I'll have a conversation with him.
Okay. Let me ask you about this debate that has also come up in, in the country, the 1 man, 1 shilling, 1 vote. And this is being pushed primarily by the Deputy President. Is this really the issue, or is it a pretext to...
It's a red herring. It's a red herring. This is how it's a red herring. Mm-hmm. 1, and I think even Kimani Chong was it the other day, and I've been in this studio of yours. The good thing is that this is a country of records. And I was the pioneer of this discussion. in this story. I have fought many battles. Yeah? Why I think, and I think I was here with Jeff Konanga some few weeks ago, and I said, why I think this is a dishonest conversation, is that one, for example, me, who pioneered this discussion, I can come out and say, you see now, we want one man, one vote, one sharing. I can go to Nyeri, I can go to Kirinyaga, I can go to Nandi, and I can go to Kisumu and tell people, you people, nyinyi watu, we want one man, one vote, one sharing. Look at me, a privileged person, a cabinet secretary, who has got the means, who is part of a government where, for example, you are saying that this is really about a particular region with 9 ministers, a region with a deputy president, a region with a leader of majority, a region with a deputy speaker of the Senate, a region with the chairman of the budget committee, a region with the chairman of the finance committee in the National Assembly, a region with a deputy majority leader in the Senate in the name of Tabitha Kalaja, a region which can meet today and say tomorrow we are going to go to that parliament and do what we need to do. We are going to go to that Senate and do what we need to do. Look at your people, 9 people plus, a deputy president who can go to cabinet and put our case and say, listen, I can do a cabinet memo. I don't need to be persuaded by anyone, and I don't need to be forced. And I say, look, I want this clause on the sharing resources to be like that. But now we abdicate our responsibility as leaders to use the existing platforms, which you as Yvonne Okola does not have. And then we go and cry with the people down there who elected us to give them solutions. And we come there and ask them, look here, we want one man. What do you expect those people to do? That's number one. 2, we need to look for solutions in this country that unite this country. And it does not mean that you are wrong. Solutions that unite this country does not mean that one is wrong and one is right. It's just realizing that we are in this kind of a diverse country where we need to really be very sensitive for everybody. I don't have to be right for you to be wrong. You don't have to be right for me to be wrong. I think that the sense of responsibility that is bestowed on me as a leader is that really I have to rise up. I have to rise up. And I have to be, if me, I'm the minister of Kenya. If me, I'm the minister of people in a place called Nasewa in Busia, yeah? And I feel I'm the leader of the people in a place called Mavueni in Kilifi, a minister. What about a deputy president who is supposed to be seeing the entire country, who is supposed to be even seeing the president? So it's really a big concern upon us, all of us, elected leaders, everybody, you in the media, everybody, to know that this country is not just about your village, your county, it is really a diverse country where we need everybody together. And the principal ingredient we need, especially for the people where I come from a region where my people don't have land. The average land holding in Kiambu County is quarter of an acre. It's quarter of an acre. We come from a region, we don't have minerals like other regions have minerals. Turkana have oil, I don't have oil. We have got areas in this country with even more rainfall than our region. The best investment that people from my region, and I want to persuade them, and I will never tire from reminding them, is to invest in Kenya.
Okay.
To believe in Kenya. To invest in Kenya. 3, this is important, please bear with me on this argument because this is very important. We now are rolling out through the Ministry of Education a new system for financing university education through something we are calling means testing. That means I need to assess you if my children can afford, as most schools can afford, I can afford to pay university for my children, I should not be paid for by the taxpayer. But if somebody else, and it's working very well, I have to give it to CS Machogo on that. Now, beginning in the next 2 weeks, when we move to the Chief SHA, the social health and insurance, we are also using the same methodology to look at the needs of the people, which we are calling the people who need to be supported, in terms of we pay for them that they can't pay for the 2.75% for the health. That again is individual based. Imagine the next move we are going to do. We are now moving to the secondary education. Yeah, and I really want to champion this to push it, no matter how difficult. That means that I will be able to assess every child in secondary school in this country and see who can pay and who cannot pay, irrespective of where they come from highly populated, from the less populated. Because yes, I belong to Kiambu County, but I have got an ID, a mother and a father and an identity. Why can't we focus on the child? Because this society has invested in educating us and giving us brains to use them so that we can come up with solutions which solve the problem without necessarily dividing the people.
CS Kuria, in line with that then, do you think the debate around Mount Kenya unity is a problem? The Deputy President has said calling for unity of Mount Kenya isn't necessarily exclusionary to the rest of the country.
My problem of this talk of unity for what? To what end? Yeah? Unity to what end?
Do you think it's a divisive?
It is no, it is not just divisive. It is time wasting. It's a useless debate. It's a useless debate. Why? People of Mount Kenya region, in 2013, I've been around for a long time, unfortunately for me, I cannot write to the people. In 2007, let me start from 2002. 2002, people of Mount Kenya region divided their votes equally between, no, not equally, overwhelmingly for Mwai Kibaki, but still a lot of people, over 1 million people voted for Uhuru Kenyatta. 2007, to the man, voted for Mwai Kibaki. 2013, to the man, voted for Uhuru Kenyatta. 2017, to the man, voted for Uhuru Kenyatta. 2022, 84% voted for William Ruto. Isn't that unity? Which other unity? So now, this thing of how can we keep unity? Even my good friends, the Ruyas, are getting tired of the same talk over the ages. They are telling Atwoli, give us a new story. Sasa mnataka tutoe kwa Atwoli na unity ya kila mwaka ikuje kwetu. Hapana, now it's time to talk about health. Now it's time to talk about agriculture. It's time to talk about jobs. Jobs not for my people only, but jobs for the people of Kakamega. Jobs for the people of Mandela. Jobs, realizing that if this country is producing, we had a very...
So you say it is a divisive
time-wasting, useless discussion.
Okay. However, when Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua earlier on in this administration was speaking about the issue of shareholders and that there are some people who voted for the government who should be first in line when it comes to development projects and those who didn't should wait back in line, was that not divisive? And to recall, none of you said anything about it.
Oh my God, actually, we are on Citizen TV. Remember when I was ranching the industrial parks? I was in Siaya. I was in Alego, in Siaya. I was in Riwa, in Homabay. I was in a place called in Nyamira, somewhere in Nyamira. I was all over. I was in Garissa, live on your TV station. Everywhere I was saying, when I was launching this, why I'm launching this industrial park is because every corner of this country has got capacity to contribute to our dinner table as a country. And I said that what I was trying to do was a reversal of sessional paper number 10 of 1965, which said, and I thought Boya and Kebake people were there at that time, that there are some parts of this country which are useful and other parts which are useless. And I said, even for my people, the best thing is when we are producing together, all of us as a country. And I said, even you, I told people, go to the speech, it was live on your television, and I told people of Siaya, buy your fish. And I told people of Garissa, buy your livestock. And I told people of Laikipia, buy your horticulture. You are also shareholders in this country, if not by votes.
So do you think then that was divisive?
It was very divisive.
Okay.
It was very divisive because, and this country has got a lot of promise and a lot of potential. How I wish we just focus all our efforts. Yeah, how we just focus all our efforts in taking this country forward and moving the country forward. Because, Sasa, can I ask you a question? Even if I unite Mount Kenya people, nitawapeleka wapi? Then what? Then what after that?
Okay.
Yeah? If they have no food, then what? If they have no school fees, if they have no what, then what? You know, it depends me. Because even the Bible says condemned is a person who misleads the people of God. That's what some people are doing now.
Is the Deputy President misleading the people of Kenya?
The people of Kenya.
Is he a divisive figure in your view?
He is a divisive figure. He is a divisive figure. He is going to, even for my people, he's going to lead to their isolation. Most important thing, he is wasting the space that we need, the mental, the emotional space that we need to focus on nation building, that we need to focus on ensuring that we create jobs and we develop every part of this country. By the way, I was with a guy called Kagiri over the weekend. Kagiri is an MCA in Samburu. Kikuyu man. What am I telling him? What am I telling him? What do you want me to tell Kagiri? That unite what? Where is Samburu in that discussion? What will Kagiri say to the people of Mara, to those Samburus, when he goes back home? And tell them, what are we doing to our people? Unless somebody came to the scene yesterday, and maybe they did, then that, you know, and I'm just saying with utmost and profound respect to my boss, to my senior and my very close friend.
Because that was going to be my next question.
No,
he is your boss as the deputy president. You've just said here he's a divisive figure. Paint for me a picture on the wall at the cabinet meeting that you had, and I know the cabinet is going to meet again on Thursday, just before the budget is presented. How do you then sit with the man who's your boss, whom you think is divisive?
That man respects freedom of opinion. And if you two things you would have done, there are only two options. One, if you wanted someone to lie to you, you'd have got another person. You know me. I never lie. Yeah? You should have got somebody else who can lie. Or you should not have asked me that question. But me, I will speak my truth to my grave.
My last question to you, Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria. So the president had a conversation with the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta. Is he having a conversation with his current deputy over all of these things that we have seen playing out in the media over the last couple of weeks? Why aren't they talking? Because you say those are not issues.
I am sure they are talking.
You said those are not issues that, you know,
I'm sure they talk about many things, surely. Who am I to know a junior motto in that pecking order for me to know?
I'm asking you, should they talk and then resolve these issues? Numaya tent instead of you know, having these public spats and proverbially airing the
I'll say this,
linen?
because we are very courageous government. Remember, we got into government through very difficult circumstances. Everybody should talk to everybody. It is true, because we want team. But that can be...
Kenyans, Kuria, do not want to see what we have seen over the last couple of weeks.
True, but what we want is broader conversation.
I see darkness, another one saying...
Let me tell you something.
So, I mean, my question is then, how do we tidy up conversations and disagreements like
If I hear a conversation for this topic between the president and the deputy president, I will knock the door and enter uninvited. This is not about the two individuals. We are a team. And we are a government. My destiny is tied to the destiny of the president and the deputy president. My destiny is tied to the Kenya Kwanza administration. My destiny is tied to those people whom Kenyans, so faithfully trusted with the destiny of this country. So I will say, yes, you two guys, as individuals, in your individual rights, it's okay. But as long as we are talking about things that affect our government, I have got an equal right, because I'll be equally measured by that conversation.